All right, good morning. This is Jeff Warrock here at the National Weather Service office in Wakefield. Today is Monday, July 20th. Going to walk through the weather risk threats here for today, really all the way through Wednesday and Thursday. That's where we're going to be focusing on. We are in a very active pattern. We have slight risks for severe weather and heavy rain somewhere in the area, really all the way through Wednesday. So we'll kind of break each day down and what it looks like from now. We've seen a lot of severe weather over the last several days, off and on. So just kind of a continuation of that pattern, really overall. As far as what's going on in the weather pattern, just kind of get an idea of what the big picture looks like. I'll pull over the Weather Prediction Center site here. What's really happened is we had that front come through yesterday. Really, that's what sparked off a lot of showers and storms with a lot of heavy rain. Not as bad as it was prior, but we did have a few severe storms, a lot of heavy rain. That front right now is really stalled out really right over North Carolina, kind of east-west oriented there. And this afternoon, it really doesn't move a whole lot. This is about 2 o'clock this afternoon, and you see that front's kind of stuck there. So really the risk of severe weather, risk of heavy rain really is more for Southern Virginia and down into North Carolina, really kind of just north and along of that front and south of the front. So that's where the threat is for today. Later on this evening, you see the front does start to turn to a warm front, starts to lift back to the north. And really by tomorrow morning, that front has lifted all the way back to the north, up around DC and across the Maryland Eastern Shore. So the front's going to come back at us. So because of that, for tomorrow, the weather threat actually shifts further north. It goes back in across parts of central North Carolina, central Virginia, eastern Virginia, as well as Maryland Eastern Shore. Probably not as much of a threat in North Carolina tomorrow, with everything shifting a little bit to the north, but there is a pretty good risk across most of the area in Virginia and Maryland for tomorrow. So we'll talk about that. Tomorrow evening, again, just kind of more widespread heavy rain across the region. By Wednesday, you see a cold front starting to come in from the west. And so this is going to start to become a focus for potential heavy rain and severe storms on Wednesday as this front starts to make it across the area. And by Thursday morning, it should be all the way to the coast. And this kind of shifts slowly across the area on Wednesday. Wednesday still has some question marks of exactly where and how bad the weather will be, but we'll continue with that risk as that cold front's coming through. By the time you get into Friday morning, the front stalls just offshore, but not very far offshore. So we're going to keep some pretty good rain chances there, especially in the southeast there for Friday. Saturday, you notice the front still kind of pushed a little bit further offshore, but it just kind of hangs up along the Carolina coast and off the coast. So we'll see what it looks like for next weekend, but definitely going to be active here for the next several days. Heat wise, I really don't have anything to be concerned about with heat. I mean, that's been one of the things that have plagued us this summer. But heat index tomorrow, maybe right around 100, give or take. We'll see, but nothing that's going to warrant any kind of heat advisories. So we're okay there. Just really high humidity. The temperatures aren't getting that high. It's just very soupy outside. And so really it's the humidity that's driving those heat index values. So breaking down the severe weather for the next couple of days, this is a severe weather risk. You see there on the left for today, mainly down in North Carolina, maybe a little bit of Southern Virginia. Tuesday, the threat really is just about everywhere, which we'll detail that here in a minute. And then Wednesday, we'll have to see here. It depends upon how fast that front pushes in. But right now, it does look like the best severe weather threat is mainly going to be kind of central, Southern Virginia, Southeast Virginia, and getting into North Carolina on Wednesday. So we'll kind of break this down, how it's going to play out each day. So for today, what we have is basically the best risk really across North Carolina. It's along that stalled front and even just to the north of the front. So could even see some strong storms here over Southern Virginia, I'd say, almost along and south of 460, but it also includes, a little bit of Hampton Roads, maybe getting up into Hampton with some of those strong storms. There's some showers and storms out there now. There's nothing potentially severe or anything. Just kind of see here, we have these thunderstorms, one here near Cortland. All this stuff is kind of moving off to the east and the southeast. The front is really a little bit further to the south down here across North Carolina. But there's a few storms, but nothing severe at this time. This is going to continue to expand a little bit in coverage, and we'll work through the radar here in a few minutes. As far as the threat today, it is primarily I don't want to say just damaging winds, but there could be some winds about 45, maybe 60 miles per hour. Again, the threat today is not as good as what it was, yesterday and especially the day before. But there's a little bit of a low risk there of wind damage, a little bit higher once you get down to Elizabeth City and down towards Windsor. If we can get some strong storms popping up there today. Really no hail threat, really no tornado threat. It's just going to be maybe some strong storms with some gusty winds and some heavy rain. Now, for tomorrow, the risk does go up for everybody. We have a level 2 risk, slight risk, really across the entire region. The atmosphere, it's you've got some potential here to produce a fair number of severe storms and timing. Basically early afternoon into the evening hours. Storms are going to be moving a little bit faster. Notice that storms are going to be moving towards the east northeast at up to 30 miles per hour. So a little bit more wind in the atmosphere, and so we're kind of saying that there's more potential of seeing that 60 plus mile per hour wind for tomorrow. So you see our confidence is actually moderate to high, just about in all the categories for tomorrow. Now, with more wind in the atmosphere and the potential for some really strong to severe storms, the threats are a little bit better for tomorrow. We get to the next slide here. So the damaging wind threat, especially I'd say along the north of 64 there, we're in the red area. We have a 30% probability of damaging winds. The rest of the area is in about a 15 to 25% probability of damaging winds, but really a threat of damaging winds everywhere. And it's even higher once you get, I'd say, Farmville over to Williamsburg north. Has even a better chance of getting damaging winds for tomorrow. Hail threat's not a concern, but you do notice there is a little bit of a tornado threat tomorrow. So we're in that 2 to 4% tornado threat there across most of the area. Maryland's a little bit higher, up to almost about a 10% probability of tornadoes. So isolated tornado is possible tomorrow, given the increase in the shear, increase in the wind in the atmosphere. So we're just going to have to watch out for that. But primarily, damaging wind is the main threat for tomorrow. Before we get into the heavy rain, what we'll kind of do is I'll kind of show some simulated model reflectivity here. This is just one of the models. So we'll step through maybe a couple of them, and I'll zoom out here so we can kind of see the whole area really well. This will start out this afternoon. This is about 11 o'clock this morning, so where we are now. So the model's doing a halfway decent job, showing there should be some showers and storms here over parts of Southern Virginia. The exact location is not perfect. This model really does try to blow those up as the afternoon progresses. We'll see if this really happens. This may actually be a little bit further south. This band here might be too far north. You might end up wanting to shift that a little bit closer to the North Carolina-Virginia border, but you're getting the idea that the showers and storms should expand here over the next few hours. And this is about 2 o'clock this afternoon. And as they continue to expand, they will eventually drop south and kind of push more into North Carolina through the afternoon. So really kind of right where they have the marginal and the slight risk is really where these showers and storms are going to be kind of parking and kind of developing. They're not moving really fast. This is about 6 o'clock this evening. They just kind of drag their way, slowly south. And they kind of keep redeveloping. And then we should get a break later this evening. This is about 11 o'clock. So you kind of see really from, I'd say, about 2 o'clock to about 11 o'clock or so, 10 o'clock is really that timing for those storms today. And it really is kind of South Central Virginia, Southeast Virginia, and Northeast North Carolina. Everybody else looks like today they're going to be kind of out of the woods. Getting into tomorrow, things redevelop, and we'll have to see how this goes. There obviously are some model differences as we get through the day, but you see this area of showers and storms developing to the west and moving in from basically west to east. Timing is a little bit in question. Some models bring this in a little bit sooner. Some models bring it in a little bit later. This is kind of like mid-afternoon. It develops it. It pushes it across a lot of the area. Some models are a little bit more intense with these showers and storms for tomorrow. This is the HRRR, so you kind of see it. It kind of blows things up a little bit more intense. So just have to realize this could be a little bit of everywhere for tomorrow. This is tomorrow afternoon. So that's why you saw that risk is a little bit larger for tomorrow, really across the entire area. And so we'll see how it plays out, but just be on your guard for strong showers and storms tomorrow afternoon. Now with this, because the atmosphere is so soupy, it's very humid outside, there's a risk of heavy rain and flooding every single day. Here for today, it's primarily across North Carolina. There's a marginal risk of part of Southern Virginia, and that's where the showers are now. So you saw in that simulated reflectivity, Southern Virginia, those storms could kind of blossom here over the next few hours and then gradually shift south into North Carolina. So we'll see how that plays out. For tomorrow, that threat of heavy rain and flooding is just about everywhere. probably a little bit better in some areas than others. So we'll talk about that here in just a second when we get through the rainfall forecast. And then for Wednesday, with that front coming through, it looks like most of the area, except for maybe Louisa and maybe parts of Caroline County, the far northwest may not have as much of a flooding threat on Wednesday, but really the rest of the area pretty much has that flooding threat with that front trying to push down. Going to be a good focus for showers and storms, threat for severe weather, threat for heavy rain and flooding. Rainfall rates, 2-3 inches per hour. So again, that lingers there on Wednesday. So if I break this down by day, you'll have this in the briefing. The area here in the yellow circle, that's where we could see the heavier amounts today. So kind of that, I say, Tri-City South down 95, and of course Hampton Roads, Northeast North Carolina. As this stuff kind of develops, it's slow moving, and they're real heavy rainfall, and it's going to blossom as the afternoon goes on. So this is the area here we're concerned about. Kind of see the timing here really kind of lingers longer over North Carolina, where you have those higher chances of precipitation lasting even until about almost 9 o'clock tonight. Still about a 35 to 45% chance of showers with some heavy rain even into late tonight. If you look at this is actually what I'm going to show you here is a model. It's maximum rainfall. So this is just going to be showing you where the really intense rainfall will be falling and how it will play out, through today. So this is Monday. So as we go through today, you kind of see this morning, it starts to eventually develop those showers that are going on now. This is through about 4 o'clock. And you really notice here, it's over kind of, south central, southeast Virginia, a little bit into maybe northeast North Carolina. This is where you may see some of the higher rainfall rates. As the day goes on, you really kind of see that expand. And because this here is the area where we're probably going to see the most intense rainfall. We're really looking at 6 hourly maximum rainfall amounts here. So it's showing us kind of the worst case, but it gives us a good idea of where the bigger storms are going to pop up and develop. So kind of see that area that we've outlined for late afternoon and this evening here, southeast Virginia, northeast North Carolina. You see a few little tick marks here, a few little bullseyes here, even along the 85 corridor. Not quite as intense, but still a few little bullseyes there. It gives you an idea there for today where that best risk is going to be. And then it kind of decreases here as you get through the overnight. See the rainfall peak amounts really do fall off pretty good. So let's go ahead and take a shift and we'll look into Tuesday. Tuesday, again, everything shifts a little bit further north. And so the heavy rain threat does cover a good bit of the area. It's most of our forecast area in Virginia. It's really all of the eastern shore, including Maryland. This is where the things may develop tomorrow and get fairly intense at times, where we could see some flash flooding. And the timing of it, again, a little bit in question. Could be a few little showers in the morning. And depending on where you are, it could be a little bit of a lull. And then all of a sudden it fires off back again in the afternoon. And notice how it does go into a little bit of late Tuesday night, early Wednesday morning. So this could linger for some folks for quite some time. Again, really picking up in the afternoon and then going into a little bit of tomorrow night. So looking at it again here, we'll get into Tuesday, looking at the exact same thing. I'm going to zoom out so I can see Maryland now, since Maryland's going to have a threat for Tuesday. You'll see it kind of re-blossom here as we get into Tuesday afternoon. Some of these intense rainfalls start to really show up here, and they start to expand across the area and then really blow up here. So kind of rocket back and forth. You can kind of see that threat area. Notice how Hampton Roads isn't quite as much in the threat area here for Tuesday. Well, we'll have to see. It definitely looks like parts of the peninsula, Williamsburg, the Middle Peninsula, Northern Neck, back into the Tri-Cities here, back towards Richmond. That really does look like where that better threat, where some of this more intense rainfall is going to get going. And it does last through, this is 4 a.m. On Wednesday. So it starts maybe a little bit later on Tuesday, but then goes all the way through Tuesday afternoon and probably through a bit of Tuesday night. And you don't see those rates starting to decrease until almost Wednesday morning. And then we may get into that little bit of a lull before the next round starts to redevelop here on Wednesday. I'll talk about that in a second. So Tuesday, really this is kind of that threat area here. Maryland Eastern Shore through a lot of the peninsulas, as well as central Virginia. And so that's kind of our threat area. And that's kind of what we've outlined here. I say Hampton Roads is a little more questionable as far as the intense rainfall. We'll see. Some models do have a little more rain getting into Hampton Roads late Tuesday evening and getting into Wednesday morning, but we'll see how that plays out. But generally, central Virginia and the Eastern Shore really have the best threat. Now we get into Wednesday. The threat does start to shift a little bit more to the southeast, some potentially heavy rain. I don't know if we're really going to get 2 to 3 inches out of this. That could be a little overdone by some of the models. This is kind of more of a model forecast, but you definitely get a flavor here that, once you get, I'd say about 85, south and east, and once you get up towards Richmond, south and east, and all of Hampton Roads, northeast North Carolina, that really is going to be the best threat there for Wednesday. So we'll kind of get over here and we'll kind of show what Wednesday looks like. This is a different model, but it will kind of show you the trend. So this is Wednesday morning at about 8 a.m., showing that there could be a little bit of heavy rain here. I think we may be in a little bit of a lull, but again, this model thinks there could be some lingering heavy rain during the early morning hours here across central Virginia and over Maryland. The thing on Wednesday is you're going to see it kind of decrease here a little bit and then move into basically southeast Virginia and northeast North Carolina. And it doesn't move very fast. I mean, this is at 2 o'clock. This is at 8 o'clock. Here we are by about 2 a.m. on Thursday morning. And notice how it hasn't moved a lot. So some of the heavy rain may start out in central Virginia and over the Maryland Eastern Shore in the morning on Wednesday, but it's going to pretty quickly shift to the southeast and it's going to settle in across really, I'd say, southern Virginia, Emporia, over towards Hampton Roads, the peninsula, the Eastern Shore, and it's just going to kind of maybe sit and park there. So could be quite a bit of heavy rain Wednesday afternoon into, I'd say, Wednesday night and maybe even early Thursday morning. By the time you get to about maybe 8 a.m. Thursday, it's starting to shift a little bit further south. But here by 2 o'clock Thursday afternoon, now it's bullseyeing Maryland, North Carolina, there in the northeast North Carolina area. So it's going to be really kind of slow to drop south. And so we're going to have to watch out for Wednesday for the heavy rain threat. So if you kind of go back and summarize it, today it's mainly just some heavy rain, maybe some isolated severe southern Virginia, North Carolina. Tomorrow, a little bit better chance of more widespread severe storms, and the heavy rain threats really more central Virginia, the peninsulas, Eastern Shore. And then when you get into Wednesday, it's probably a little bit more of a heavy rain threat versus a severe weather threat, even though there could be some strong gusty winds. But on Wednesday, it shifts south more into, I'd say, southern Virginia, southeast Virginia, and northeast North Carolina. So it's kind of how all this is going to play out. So the system is here for the next several days. This is kind of showing you the overall potential rainfall accumulations over the next 3 days. This covers Monday through Wednesday. And then you kind of see here is your rainfall accumulation table. So it's broken down in 6 hourly chunks. And so it's how much rainfall might each location receive within that 6 hour time window. So you kind of get an idea when the heaviest rain, especially you start getting up to, quarter inch, half inch or more, you kind of get an idea when some of that heavier rain potentials are going to occur. Now, obviously, with an intense thunderstorm, you're going to get more rain than this, but it does give you an idea of the timing of when some of that rainfall is going to be occurring as far as some of the higher amounts with maybe some heavier rates. I'm looking at it, for the rest of the week. Temperatures are seasonable, nothing really to be concerned there. Again, we got those rain chances today. We got it again tomorrow afternoon. But then once you get into Wednesday and Thursday, that's really Wednesday's our big heavy rain day. Even though Tuesday could be a little bit of a heavy rain day across central Virginia. And then once we get past Thursday, it looks like it's mostly just, I'd say anywhere from 15 to 35% chances of rainfall across the area. So really, we're dealing with the weather, depending on where you are, pretty much Monday to Thursday. Thursday being more focused out in eastern North Carolina. Rip currents today, no issues there. Basically, we've got about 2-foot breakers, so we maybe have a moderate risk tomorrow as the winds become a little more easterly. So we'll watch out for that. But right now, we're just a low risk of rip currents for today. We are tracking the tropical system down across the Gulf. Not going to be an issue for us. It's going to slowly make its way further to the west as a tropical storm, but it looks like it's going to be mostly all Gulf Coast impacts. And all the rain we're experiencing right now, obviously, is not related to this tropical system at all. It's basically just normal weather system that's going on for us. Really quickly on the marine, because there's a little bit going on the marine side as well. Today's not too bad. We have kind of fairly benign conditions, maybe 15 knots out there. But you notice a lot of orange here by the time you get into Tuesday and Wednesday. So really expecting widespread small craft advisory conditions really everywhere on Tuesday and Wednesday. Thursday and Friday, a little bit lighter wind, especially by Friday. The winds are really decreasing. So just going to have to watch out for some elevated winds here Tuesday and Wednesday. Looking at the timing of that, really it's more Tuesday afternoon when those southwest winds really start to pick up, start to get kind of gusty. And that lasts through all Tuesday night and even through a good bit of Wednesday is going to be pretty windy and breezy. So those small craft advisory conditions really get going. I'd say early Tuesday afternoon and really don't stop until probably I'd say almost sometime Wednesday afternoon, maybe even Wednesday evening before they let up. These are actually some of the offshore conditions. You're seeing gusts there almost 30 to 33 knots. So going to be a pretty breezy period there from Tuesday afternoon all the way through, I'd say almost into Wednesday night, especially offshore. And kind of looking at your sustained winds versus your wind gust, again, you really see that timing there. And then after that, the winds do go northeast. So I did want to kind of highlight that when that front comes through. So you go to southwest winds becomes more of a north to northeast wind there on Thursday. That's your wind shift. So you will have northeast winds about 15 to 20 knots out there. So that'll kick the seas up a bit, also increase the rip current risk later on this week. So the beaches will kick up a little bit with that northeast wind. And we do stay northeast to east all the way through Friday and even into a little bit Saturday. And then the winds do die out by Saturday and Sunday. But with that northeast to east flow, that may actually bump up the rip current risk and make the coast a little bit rougher as we get on later this week after the blow we have with the southwest wind Tuesday and Wednesday. Wave heights, again, obviously with the waves are going to be building up offshore with the winds, getting up to about, 4 feet in the bay, 5 to 7 feet Tuesday and Wednesday offshore, getting closer to 7 to 10 feet. So going to be a pretty rough period out there, especially Tuesday afternoon as those winds pick up into Wednesday. And with the northeast wind there, it's probably still going to be pretty rough out there on Thursday. And then things will be improving as we get through, I'd say, Friday and Saturday on the coastal waters. So with that, I'll go ahead and stop the recording.